very good evening to all the aspirants. My name is Sumeet and today I am going to take a session on current affairs. In one of my last videos, one among the aspirants had asked me to take up certain current affairs issues. So today, keeping in view your request, I have come up with river interlinking projects. Right? Shall we deep dive into the subject? Fine. So let us try and understand what river interlinking projects actually is. It involves the transfer of water from water surplus regions to water deficit regions through an intricate system of canals and dams. This is a definition of river interlinking, right? So who is undertaking this project? You will have to ask who is undertaking this project. The project is being undertaken by the government of India. Why is it taking? It is taking this project in order to resolve the water scarcity crisis which we are facing and also improve the irrigation system in our country, and along with it also generate hydropower electricity. These are the main aims which the government is trying to resolve by implementing this project, right? Shall we go to the next slide? So since we have understood what interlinking project is, let us have a brief historical outlook of the project, right? So the idea of linking rivers was first mooted by this gentleman called as Arthur Cotton. Arthur Cotton. So he was a British engineer. He was posted in the province of Madras, and the main motive behind by devising this idea was to transport the colonial goods across the length and breadth of our country. This was his primary idea, and apart from that, he also wanted to solve the water scarcity crisis of southern peninsular India, which is the southern India, of which province this gentleman belonged to, right? So this is the idea which was mooted first before independence in India by this guy called as Arthur Cotton. Now after independence, nothing actually happened for decades. Then in the 70s, there was an irrigation minister called as K.L. Rao. K.L. Rao, so he mooted this idea, he brought this idea back to life by envisioning the linkage of Ganga river with Kaveri. And he said, and he termed that plan as National Water Grid Plan. National Water Grid Plan, where the surplus waters of Ganga river can be transferred to the southern peninsular rivers, like say for example like Kaveri, Godavari and all, right? This was the idea behind it. Again for a decade, nothing actually happened. So again in the 1980s, this idea was again brought back to life. It was brought back to life and the name National Water Grid was transformed to, the name was changed to National Perspective Plan in the 1980. So let us try and understand what this National Perspective Plan is, right? So National Perspective Plan, it has two components into it. The first one is the Himalayan component, which consists of 14 rivers, and the peninsular component, which consists of 16 rivers, a link of 16 rivers. We know since we have read in our geography that the Himalayan component, the Himalayan rivers are snow-fed, right? They are snow-fed. They are not dependent on the monsoon rains, right? They are perennial rivers, right? But the peninsular rivers, the peninsular component, the 16 rivers which have been which has been compartmentalized into this category, peninsular component, they are highly dependent on rains. The water flow in these rivers are highly dependent on rain. So the plan is to take the water from the water surplus region of Himalayan rivers and transfer them to peninsular rivers. So it's an intricate link of 30 rivers. It is an intricate link of 30 rivers. This is the National Perspective Plan. And to have a feasibility study on the entire river interlinking project, a body, an authority, a very independent body was established in the year 1982. In 1982, National Water Development Authority. National Water Development Authority was formed, right? It was inaugurated by the then Prime Minister of our country, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. And this authority presently is under the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Ministry of Jal Shakti. Right? This you'll have to keep in your mind. This ministry This authority is under the Ministry of Jal Shakti. So now that we have understood what the National Prospective Plan is, so this is the map. This is the map of river interlinkages, right? This, I think you can Google it out. You will get to know where the linkages are and what kind of rivers are getting linked, right? We'll move ahead. So now, since we've understood what river linking project is, let us try and understand why it is in the news. Why is it in the current affairs? Why is this in the news? Recently, the Prime Minister of our country, Mr. Modi, he inaugurated on 25th December 2024 to commemorate the 100th birth anniversary of ex-Prime Minister Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. The present PM, he inaugurated Ken-Betwa project. So what is this Ken-Betwa? We'll have to first understand what this Ken-Betwa is. Both Ken and Betwa are rivers. They are rivers and they are tributaries of the main river Yamuna. They are tributaries of main river Yamuna. So it is generally believed that Ken is water surplus river and Betwa is water deficit river. And both these rivers pass through a region called as Bundelkhand. They pass through this region called as Bundelkhand. Bundelkhand again is one of the most arid and dry regions of our country, right? It is a very arid and dry regions of our country, and both these rivers, they pass through this region. And according to this project, the surplus waters from Ken have to be transferred to the Betwa river through an intricate system of canals and dams. This is what has been envisaged in this project, and this project is implemented by a special purpose vehicle called as Ken-Betwa Link Project. So what are the aims of this project? Let us try and understand what the aims of this project are. The aim is that it will try to irrigate 11 lakh hectares of agricultural land. This is the first aim of this project, and apart from that, it tries to fulfill the water needs of 11 lakh people present in the Bundelkhand region, which is dry. It tries to fulfill the water needs of 11 lakh people of the Bundelkhand region. Then apart from that, it also tries to generate hydroelectricity of up to 103 megawatts of hydroelectric energy, as well as 27 megawatts of solar energy. These are the main aims of this project. Right? And there are some environmentalists as well as ecologists who have taken up arms against this project, who have raised questions or objections against this project. The main reason being, there's a Panna Tiger Reserve. Near the river of Ken, where the project envisages a construction of a dam. The name of the dam is Dharwad Dam. And since it is being constructed in a tiger reserve, it is also said by the environmentalists as well as ecologists that it will try to submerge the tiger reserve. It will try to subside the tiger reserve, which is not right for the ecological health of our country, right? More about this issue I'll be dealing in the further slides. Just keep this point in your mind. We'll go to the next slide. So what is the need? Why is the need for this river interlinking projects? Let us now talk about the need. As we all know, in India, water scarcity is one of the major problems in our country. Our country is facing a major crisis of waters. So as per the Niti Aayog report called as Composite Water Management Index, as per this report, which was released in June 2018, it is reported that 600 million Indians are facing water crisis, which means they are not able to fulfill their basic water needs. 600 million people. So by river interlinking project, the government is trying to resolve this issue, right? This is the point number one. And the point number two is that, as we all know, the Himalayan component of our rivers, they are snow fed, whereas the peninsular rivers are highly dependent on monsoons. 80% of the water flow in those rivers is during the monsoon months, which are June, July, August and September. During these 4 months, The water flow in these peninsular component of our rivers is actually there. However, if the monsoons fail, if monsoons are good, then it is well and fine. But if monsoons fail, what will happen? It will lead to water crisis in the region, right? So to resolve this problem, we are trying to resolve this problem by this water interlinking project. That is why there is a need of water linking project. And apart from that, the agriculture, we know that India is a highly agricultural country, right? And agriculture is again dependent on the monsoons. Agriculture is a gamble on monsoons. And we also know that in agriculture, the total irrigated land is only up to 30 to 40% of irrigated land is agricultural. The rest is non-irrigated. So as per this project, as per the estimates of this project, if we undertake National River Interlinking Project, we will be able to irrigate 35 million hectares of agricultural land. So the problem of non-irrigated land will be reduced considerably. This is what the project aims to fulfill, right? This is point number 3. So the other point is that our country is facing a problem of floods and droughts as well. As per the SBI's report called as EcoRap, it is estimated that India economically loses 10,000 to 15,000 crores annually in this floods and droughts. So by linking rivers, we will be able to solve this problem. The flood prone regions, the water from the flood prone regions can be diverted to the drought prone regions. By that, we will be solving the problem of droughts and floods as well as the economic losses associated with it. This is problem number 4, which we are trying to resolve. The other problem, India is a growing economy, we know that, and our urban spaces are expanding. Along with it, our industries are also growing. So there's a need, the need for water is always escalating. So by having the National Interlinking Project, we will be able to fulfill the needs of our urban expansion as well as industrial development. The River Interlinking Project tries to fulfill the needs of our economic growth as well. So the other point also relates to the hydropower generation. We know that hydropower generation is a clean energy because we do not give out any carbon emissions in generation of hydropower electricity. We do not let out any carbon emissions during the generation of hydropower electricity. So by river interlinking projects, we are trying to generate 34 gigawatts of electricity. This is in line with our commitments to the Paris Climate Agreement. Our commitments to this Paris Climate Agreement will also be fulfilled if we undertake this project, because we will be able to generate electricity through hydropower. And the other problem which we are trying to resolve is the imbalance in the distribution of water. We, being the state of Karnataka, we are at loggerheads with our neighboring states like Tamil Nadu for Kaveri waters, as well as with respect to the Mahadai issue with states like Goa and Maharashtra. We are always at loggerheads with them. Why? Because the distribution of water is not equal, it is unequal. To resolve this regional distribution of water, to equally distribute the water in between the states, we are trying to resolve this issue by National River Interlinking projects. Right? The other problem which we are trying to resolve is groundwater recharge. If water flows through some of the arid and dry regions, it will also lead to the groundwater recharge in those areas, and that presence of groundwater will definitely help in the long-term availability of water as well as sustainability of water in those areas. This is also the major aim we are trying to resolve through National Water Linking Project. And apart from that, inland waterways, we are also looking at the construction of inland waterways. Inland waterways will help us in transportation of people, goods and all. It will also help improve our commerce and also benefit in our economic growth. This is what we are trying to achieve by National Water Linking Mission. Right? This is the other point which we are trying to resolve. So now that we've understood the need, why there is a need for this national interlinking of rivers, let us now try and address the elephant in the room. Let us try and address the challenges. What are the challenges behind implementation of this national river linking project? The first one is loss of biodiversity. As I've already told you, linking rivers across the length and breadth of our country has a lot of environmental costs associated with it. Why? Because all these linkages, they also pass through some of the pristine forests of our country. Right? They pass through the pristine forest of our country. Say for example, I've discussed about the Ken-Betwa link. Where does it pass? It passes through Panna Tiger Reserve. Panna Tiger Reserve is one of the most pristine forests of our country where there's a high amount of tiger population. Don't you think if we construct a dam and canals in such areas, don't you think it will affect our biodiversity? Yes, it does. So loss of biodiversity is one of the major challenges. The other one, the next point is about delta ecosystem. Deltas are formed when are they formed? When the sediments are brought by the rivers to the region of the delta, right? If the rivers, say for example, if the rivers are diverted, then who will bring the sediments to the delta ecosystem? The rivers that used to bring sediments to those delta regions will not be available. Hence, the sediments won't be deposited in the delta region. So if the sediments are not deposited in the delta region, the oceanic waters will intrude into the delta ecosystem. That will lead to the saline intrusion of the fertile lands, and that will lead to the degradation of our delta ecosystem. Right? This has been seen in the regions of Indus as well as Narmada deltas. The loss of our delta ecosystem is also a possibility if we go ahead with the national river linking projects. Right? The other problem is of ecosystem fragmentation. Right? In this national interlinking rivers, there is a project related to our North Karnataka region. It is about connecting Bedti river, which takes birth in Hubli, which has to be connected to the Varda river, which is a west flowing river. So if we are trying to link both these rivers, the link actually passes through the fragile zone of Western Ghats. Western Ghats, as we know, is a natural and a pristine reservoir of forests. It's a biosphere reserve as well, an economic hotspot. So if we are linking Bedti river with Varda, it will try and create an artificial boundary in the Western Ghats. And if there's an artificial boundary over there, the ecosystem will be fragmented. Why? Because the species which are on both the sides, who generally migrate seasonally, they won't be able to do that, and that will lead to the fragmentation of ecosystem. So this is the other challenge which we are going to face, right? So again, if we are linking the rivers, we will also face the problem of pollution and invasive species. Say for example, we know that Ganga is a highly polluted river, right? Ganga is a very highly polluted river. So if we are linking Ganga with Brahmaputra and Mahanadi, which are not as much populated as Ganga river, don't you think all the pollutants present in the Ganga river will automatically spread through Brahmaputra as well as Mahanadi, which are pristine in their original state? It will also lead to the formation of invasive species in those pristine waters as well. So this is the other challenge which we are facing while having the national river linking project. And the other problem is of displacement of people, right? We know that the river linking project passes through some of the most important pristine forests where tribes live, and also villages and some towns. So if the water which is passing through these towns and villages is readily moving, then don't you think the people who are staying over there have to be displaced, have to be moved to some other place? It will lead to a lot of displacement of people as well as loss of livelihoods of the same people. If it is passing through a village and that village is highly dependent on agriculture, if you are displaced, if you are completely rehabilitating people from that region to some other region, don't you think the people who are practicing agriculture will also lose their livelihood, right? They lose their livelihood as well as their homes. Displacement and loss of livelihood is also one of the major challenges we are facing for the implementation of this project. And apart from that, it is generally estimated that 5.6 to 5.5 lakh crore of financial outlays required to implement this project. Don't you think it is a very huge amount? India has to generate funds as well as raise funds to implement this project. This is a major challenge which we are facing. And there is also a possibility of the legal framework, policy and legal framework, right? We do not have a central authority as of now, to resolve the challenges which we are going to face legally as well as with respect to policy. And there are also international implications which we might also face in the future. Say, for example, the river of Ganga as well as Brahmaputra both also flow through Bangladesh, the country of Bangladesh. So without their permission, if we are diverting the rivers of both Ganga and Brahmaputra, don't you think the government of Bangladesh will protest against this move? It does. So there are international implications as well. If we do not talk and have word with Bangladesh regarding this project, we will face international implications on this issue. Right? So these are the main challenges which we have come across. Right? So now let us look at some international examples. Let us try and look at how the world and globally how interlinking projects has fared. Let us look at the Tennessee Valley Authority in USA. Tennessee Valley Authority is a very large corporation which is based in the USA, and they have successfully implemented interlinking of rivers in their region. They have, by implementing interlinking project in their region, they have solved the problem of floods, and they have also started inland navigation and also improved irrigation in their region, which has helped them improve their economy, because the industries over there as well as the local economy and the job generation has improved. This is the important lesson which we are getting from this Tennessee Valley Authority. Then in our own neighborhood, the Mekong River basin, the Mekong River which takes birth in China, passes through countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam. All these countries have risen up to the occasion and have created a regional cooperation amongst themselves, and they have balanced their need of water sharing. So these are one of the most successful instances of river linking projects, both Mekong as well as Tennessee Valley Authority. Let us also look at some drawbacks which the international examples give us. The other one is the Kissimmee River in Florida. This river, due to excess channelization, there was a loss of biodiversity. Since there was a loss of biodiversity, the government over there, in order to restore the biodiversity of that region, pumped in a lot of money. Excess costly restoration projects had been undertaken in the Kissimmee region. Right? This is what we have seen in Kissimmee River. Right? Then let us also look at the Aral Sea. The Aral Sea, which was earlier in a Soviet Union, two major rivers called as Amu Darya as well as Ser Darya used to drain in that sea. The Soviet Union, it diverted the waters of both the rivers for irrigation projects as well as hydroelectric projects. So once both these rivers, when they stopped getting drained into the Aral Sea changed its nature. Today, there is no water in that sea anymore. It's not a sea anymore. In place of a sea, there is a desert. An oasis as well as a desert has been formed in this region of Aral Sea. So this is one of the most major economic drawbacks and catastrophes of our generation, which we are seeing today. Now, what is the way forward? What should we do about it? Right? So firstly, it is important that we undertake comprehensive environment impact assessment. We will have to assess the problems which the environment will face. We will try and assess the problems which our environment will face in that region, in case if we are going ahead with the river interlinking projects. And once we assess the drawbacks and the losses which our environment will be facing, we will have to come up with environment management plan to restore the biodiversity of the region. right? If we are undertaking the project, we will have to, firstly, we will have to have an environment impact assessment. After assessing the losses which will be happening due to that project, we will have to manage and look up at the environment management plan to restore the biodiversity and environment ecosystem of that area to its original state. And apart from that, instead of going ahead with such a costly project, why don't we look at some alternatives, some cheap alternatives like watershed management, right? Watershed management is one among them. Then rainwater harvesting, as well as micro irrigation. Some micro irrigation facilities like sprinkler irrigation as well as drip irrigation also go a long way in resolving the water crisis which we are facing. Right? These are the possibilities we can look at. The alternatives of not looking at river linking projects, but looking at these things. So apart from that, we can also look at the virtual water trade. What do you mean by this virtual water trade? Instead of growing water intensive crops like wheat and sugarcane, why not we import those components so that we won't be able to grow such water intensive crops in our country. If we are not growing such water intensive crops in our country, we would be saving that much amount of water in that place. So we can just import them. So that understanding is called as virtual water trade. We can look into that. And apart from that, we will have to also look at rehabilitation as well as resettlement of the displaced population. We will have to include all those people in decision making process, right? If we include them in decision making process, we will be able to successfully implement the plan, as there will be many protests, there will be many many challenges to the government as well. So improved rehabilitation and resettlement along with the generation of livelihoods of the affected population will help us in having the river interlinking projects. Right? We can also use modern technologies like the GIS system in order to measure the water flow and reduce the wastage and improve the efficiency of the system. We can do that. We can use that and do that. Then also, what is the conclusion then? What is the conclusion? So what should we do about it? Since we are having drawbacks as well as benefits of having water linkage project in India. So what is the way? What is the way forward as well as the conclusion of this issue? We should look at rivers not from a human-centric, selfish point of view. We should look at rivers as an ecosystem service provider, because our rivers, they help in the enrichment of our soils, our fertility, our delta ecosystem. All these services are maintained by our rivers. Hence, we will have to think about rivers as ecosystem providers, ecosystem service providers, and our policy makers should balance the ecosystem services which are provided by the river with their policies. Their policies should not be made in such a way that permanent damage is brought upon the rivers. Permanent damage is brought upon the rivers. Right? The policymakers have to balance these, both the challenges which they are facing. Right? So this ends the river interlinking projects. I hope you've understood what I have said. So let us try and understand some model questions which you might come across, right? Okay. The first question is, consider the following about NERA. NERA is nothing but National Interlinking of Rivers Authority. Right? Statement number 1, it will be an autonomous body that will replace NWDA. Statement number 2, it will have powers on environmental clearances. Statement number 3, it will coordinate between the neighboring countries and the said states and departments. Point number 4, it will raise funds and will also have the power to set up special purpose vehicles for individual link projects. These are the 4 statements. Which among the following statements are correct is the question. Let us look at statement number 1. It will be an autonomous body that will replace NWDA. NWDA is nothing but National Water Development Authority. Yes, this is correct. It will be an autonomous body which will replace the NWDA, right? This is under the plan. The second one is it will have powers on environment clearances. Yes, it does. This is also correct. It will coordinate between the neighboring countries and the said states and departments. Yes, it does. This is also one of the important aims of establishing NERA. The fourth one is it will raise funds and will also have the power to set up special purpose vehicles for individual link projects. Yes, this is right. So all four statements are correct. So option D is the right answer. Let us now look at some possible questions which you might come across in your mains as well as essay preparation. The question number 1 is discuss the advantages of river linking projects and its possible impact on the environment. This is a question with respect to the mains. If you have gone through the entire session, I think you will be able to answer this question as well. So apart from this, let us look at this essay question. The interlinking of rivers can provide viable solutions to the multidimensional interrelated problems of droughts, floods, and uninterrupted navigation. Let this be an open-ended essay question to you. I've given you all the tools to prepare and write a very detailed essay on this. Right? All the very best for your preparation. This ends my session. Thank you. Thank you so much.